Hey everyone, Pratiti Pathak here. Welcome to Unpacking Brain Drama, where we talk about real life experiences, the challenges, and the obstacles. Sometimes we use them to block ourselves, sometimes we use them to grow and evolve. Here's what I want to say. Obstacles are not the things blocking our path. Obstacles are the path. So in other words, we have to grow through what we go through. So join me as we have some amazing conversations with some amazing guests. Here we are unpacking our brain drama. It's the middle of your morning. It's the middle of your week. And we have an amazing guest. And he's like double and triple and quadruple amazing because he was patient enough to wait for this and reschedule with me, because I don't know if you guys follow, but a few weeks ago, my technology wouldn't work and we had to reschedule. And so you guys have patiently been waiting for this amazing conversation with my good friend, Vivek Chakrabortty. And he is the founder and the owner of Kavi Group, and it's a consulting firm. So I just want to welcome you and thank you so much for coming on today with me.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I've been anxious to have this conversation ever since we met. And for you guys' information, we couldn't even wait to have these conversations. I think we originally scheduled like a 30-minute chat. Let's get together. Let's meet. And then I think we were on for like 3 freaking hours. We were just like, I feel like you're my brother. We've known each other forever.
Yeah, that is true. It was 3 hours the first call, and then we decided to have a follow-up, and that was another 2 hours. So we've had like a whole series of podcasts, and now it's finally for the audience. So that was pretty cool.
I know. It's like, okay, wait, let me turn this off because, well, you don't know, but everybody else around here knows how much I glitch. So in order for me to not be glitching, I have to turn myself off. So, okay, share with us a little bit. This is going to be an amazing conversation, guys, and it's going to go over the 30 minutes. So at that point, we'll just jump off of the live and we'll continue chatting. Vivek, I want you to share a little bit in detail on what you're doing with your consulting business, how you've structured that, because it's a little unique, right?
Yeah, so we started the Kavi Group. My wife and I actually started the Kavi Group 14 years ago. Actually, not 14, in 2014. So we're in our 10th year now. And the idea was to build a consulting firm that was different from the consulting firms you see today, right? So both my wife and I work for one of the big 4 consulting firms, and it's full of structure. You got all of these rules and controls. And we wanted a consulting firm for the individual, someone who is passionate about what they do, someone who's passionate about consulting and wants the freedom to explore who they are as a professional, to grow without constraints. So we designed the company to be that. And it actually is exactly how Kathy and I live. Like, we are 100% that way ourselves. And so we wanted to create a company where we would love to work every day, and that people like-minded would love to work every day.
I really love this concept because I heard it last year, actually, in another podcast where they were talking about, and I think it was a podcast with Layla Harmozy, Alex Harmozy's wife, and they've built something phenomenal. And what she was saying is, you want to create a company where other people can visualize their career within your company, which was amazing, right? Because it becomes all about the culture of your company, the mission of your company, and then having people that resonate with that vision, that mission, and that type of culture. So that's pretty beautiful. You have quite a group too, don't you?
It's a very eclectic group. It's a very interesting group, very diverse. And what's interesting is, so you mentioned they can visualize their career within the company. We actually reversed it. The company is a product of the individuals and their freedom, right? So Covey Group, we don't have annual targets. We don't have career paths. We don't even have not job titles, sorry, we're all management consultants, but we don't have titles, management layers, managers. There's no such concept, right? The whole idea is you come in, we're working on things. We obviously have our areas of specialization. We focus on crisis management and business continuity. That's our core. But then we've got folks who've come in with a training background or a passion for training, and they figure out how to build that passion within the opportunities that are created, or they go find new opportunities and bring that to the Covey Group. So Covey Group, over its 10 years now, in our 10th year, has evolved based on who's come in, the passions they've brought, the strengths they've brought, which is the exact opposite of what you see in corporate culture, where you bring your skills and they're like, yes, and we want to apply it exactly this way in exactly these controlled environments. And if you check all these boxes, you may get promoted and you may receive a raise, right? Is the exact opposite. We said, here's generally what we do. These are the opportunities we're trying to pursue. Come in, bring your passion, and let's see what we create. So at Covey Group, we call that choosing your own adventure.
That's amazing. Okay, so just keep going on that, because I have never heard of a company do this until I met you, but I've never heard of a company that structures their company around their employees, if you will. They're not even like your employees, they're like co-creators of a bigger vision, it sounds like.
Yeah, so there's no hierarchy, right? I am the CEO in that I sign contracts on behalf of the firm. But for example, I am on projects that we work on where I am not the lead. Someone else is the lead. I'm just the worker beyond the project. There are other projects where I lead. There are some projects where I have nothing to do with it. Someone else is running with it and the team delivers. We don't even structure ourselves in a conventional organizational structure. So most people are familiar with organizations that structure functionally, right? You have marketing, HR, technology, so on and so forth. Or you have account-based companies. This team focuses on this account or this competency. We have none of that. We are just a group. We organize around the projects we have. And then when that project ends, we go back into the pool and we reorganize. So every 6 months, we reshape what Covey Group looks like from a workload standpoint, from an assignment. We look at what people are looking to do and what's the best fit. And so there's no entitlement in that environment. It's completely exploratory. And as a result, we've got folks who 3 years ago joined us with no management consulting experience, maybe some industry experience, never led an account, never closed a deal. If you had asked them 3 years ago, hey, 3 years from now, you will be leading a project, you will have closed the deal yourself, you will have marketed and sold the whole concept, and you would be delivering, they would have laughed. They would have laughed at you and been like, yeah, that's really funny. Today, that's a commonplace thing at Covey Group. And so it works, right? And so our core values are freedom, entrepreneurship, excellence, collaboration, and individual accountability. Those are the 5 things. That's how we operate. So the company is structured that way. It's fantastic. What a cool place. I love it.
That is a very cool place. I literally want to just be a part of your team meeting if you have these. So freedom, entrepreneurship, excellence,
collaboration, and individual accountability.
Individual accountability. That is brilliant. As Adrienne has already said on here, like choosing your own adventure is brilliant. So how would so what are the type of businesses that you're doing consulting for? Like what type of business is coming to you and what are they coming to you for and how do they know that they need you?
So most of our clients are some of the largest companies in the world. No one has ever heard of us, which is also very funny, right? Almost every client that we have had in the last 10 years since 2014 has come through us through referral. We don't market. we don't do ads, we don't do SEO, we don't do anything. Actually, last year was the first time I actually even started posting on LinkedIn. Before that, we never even had a LinkedIn presence other than our profile pages. So for a company of 20 people, we're now 21 people. We started from scratch. So we started with 0 employees, 0 clients in 2014. Kathy and I put our life savings into this, and it was like, hey, this is an experiment. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, we're not going to compromise. We'll just go, it is what it is. Now we have 21 people. And we have worked and continue to work with some of the largest companies in the world. I can't tell you who they are because of
I was going to say
NDAs.
it's a secret.
But if you pick an industry and you pick the largest company in that industry, they are a client of us. So technology,
Wow.
food manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, supply chain, you name it. And it's pretty amazing that you could have that. Most of our calls where I have to get on with a prospective new client starts with so and so large company referred me to Kavi Group. I've been looking for you guys. Who the heck are you? And why do I need to work with you? Most of my calls start that way, like, why am I being referred to you? And then 2 years later, they're referring us to somebody else after working with the Kavi Group, because that's the culture we have. I mean, we love what we do. There are no distractions, right? There are no detractors from your passion. So you get to just do exactly what you love doing, or you don't survive at Kavi Group because you're looking for controls and you're looking for a predetermined path and you're looking for someone to tell you what to do every day and you're looking to be shepherded. You would be miserable at Kavi Group. But if you wake up in the morning and you're like, what do I want to do today? And you write your own story, this would be a fantastic place. And that's kind of how we built it.
Yeah. Okay. So, what this is all leading me to is the very core of me is creating my own freedom, right?
Mm-hmm.
I felt like majority of my life, like the world around me, I won't even say people, but the world around me was trying to constantly put me in a box, right?
Yeah.
It's like this social conformity, but it also tapped into my background and my culture as an Indian woman, or a little Indian girl, I should say, growing up in America. Like there was so much so much difference in what was going on inside my house and what was going on outside my house. It was so hard to navigate my own life, I felt like, and to figure out how I was going to navigate into the working world. And there were more boxes to put myself into. It was like with education and lifestyle and eating, like there's so many boxes that the rest of the world is trying to put you into, to find a company that you could actually work for and have your own independence and your own freedom as not just an employee, but not even to view yourself as an employee, but just like a co-creator of something that you're passionate about out there in the world. It just makes me think that you're all about freedom.
Yeah, it is the number one core value, and I insisted on that. So that's my personal core value, and that's all I do. Is everything is about free will, right? And you're 100% correct, because we share the same ethnic background. So growing up I grew up in Abu Dhabi, surrounded by Indians. I went to Abu Dhabi Indian school, right? So the school system, every cultural aspect around you is all rule based. It's structured. There are expectations about everything: how you speak, who you speak to, when you don't speak. And then coming from an Indian background, it's ingrained in you to follow this, not just hierarchy, but to follow people. If they're older than you, then they must be wiser than you. And then if they tell you something, it has to be true, which now as a 47-year-old, I can tell you is complete nonsense, right? and it is probably the number one cause of people getting screwed up in the head, because age does not equal wisdom. Experience also does not equal wisdom if you have learned nothing from that experience. And just as a kid, I found that, like, I don't know, I could not articulate it, but I felt it, which was, I got to get out of here. So I left at 16. I made a deal with my dad and I came to the US and I lived with my uncle and aunt and my cousins, and I finished high school here because deep down I felt like if I didn't leave, I could not be me. I had to be someone else, right? So you had this thing, you got to be a doctor, you got to be an engineer, you got to get into computers, you got to get a good job, you got to be like this, you got to marry a girl from so and so type of, caste or whatever, you got to do this, you got to do. And I was like, what? Why do I got to do all of this? When do I get to do me? And so
no, you don't get to
you don't.
That's not an
That's the
option,
thing.
actually. That's not
It
one
is.
of you have all these options, right? You can choose to be a doctor or but
Correct.
having your own identity is not one of the A, B, C, D. Wait, where's my option?
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
If you accept that, then yes, 100% that becomes your reality, right? And what I find is most people deep down know that that is not the case, but they will accept it and they will compromise with it and they may resent it over time. And I think it has serious repercussions as you age, right? Because you're swimming upstream your entire life. And it's one thing if you pick your job and you swim upstream in a career that you never chose, was never of your choosing, but you just felt you had to do it for prestige or whatever. That's going to have side effects. But imagine if you did that with your job and your marriage and you're this and you're that. It is nuts. It is absolutely nuts. And so at 16, I was like, I'm done with this. Let's go. And so
that must
now
have
I'm
taken a
47.
lot of courage. That must have. So, Adrienne just said a really good observation that, how much courage it must have taken you to like go to your father with like, hey, I disagree. So you have a unique background though too. I want you. So you're from your mom. Your mom is from one place. Your dad's from another, and yet you were living in another. So can you just touch on that for a moment?
So my dad is Brahmin Hindu. He's from West Bengal. He's Bengali. And West Bengal and Bengalis have a very specific culture. It's a beautiful culture, but it's unique. It's Bengali. Mom is from South India, and she's from a place called Mangalore, and she's Roman Catholic. And so she comes from a completely different cultural background and stuff. And so, and I was raised in Abu Dhabi, which is a Muslim country. Okay. And so you had a childhood where I would go to church because mom insisted on raising me and my brother Catholic. I had a Brahmin dad. And so we would, go to India every year, go to the village and hang out with the whole Bengali side of the family in Calcutta.
Did you also go to the temples there? Did you also go to the temple?
Yeah, I've been to temples. Okay. Absolutely. And then so for example, I've been with my dad to celebrate Kali Puja in the village, which is a family tradition that goes back 100 years. Because the puja for the village happens at our house because we're the Brahmin and we used to be the rulers of that area before the British arrived. So
and then that's there to Catholic Church and then living in a Muslim environment.
Yeah. So I mean, I have friends that fasted during Ramadan, so we would fast with them because that's what you grew up with. And so that's where, as you grow up and your experiences reflect a different reality than what people are trying to project onto you. Because you're going, okay, if you follow your Muslim friends and you follow your Catholic mom and you follow your Hindu dad, and they're all basically talking about the same good principles of life, then where do all these rules come from? Right? And where are all these constraints coming from? And if God wants you to be happy, which every God says the same thing, I made you to be happy, then why all these rules to make you unhappy? Which never made sense to me. And I'm like, okay, so I got to disconnect somehow. So I made a deal with my dad. I came to the US, went to high school here.
What was the deal?
Oh, I had to ace my board exams, which were the 10th grade board exams for the Central Board of Secondary Education, CBSE. Um, if I came out with first class or whatever distinction was, then he would allow me to go to the US. And so I did. And so then I came to the US. And once I got here, I was like, wow, this is fantastic. It's exactly where I wanted to be from the standpoint that you could be yourself. Then I went to Purdue, and there was the other constraint. My dad is an aeronautical engineer, so I was like, I'm going to follow in his footsteps. I also want to be an engineer because, you got to be an engineer. Um, it took about one semester of engineering classes. I'm like, oh my God, this is not me. I cannot see myself doing this. That was the second hardest conversation I had to have after, hey, mom and dad, I want to go to the US. I had to call my dad and say, hey, I'm dropping out of engineering. It is not for me. What do you want to do? I have no idea, but it's definitely not engineering. So I wandered around for a bit, and then I found management at Krannert, which has now got a new name at Purdue. But I did management as my undergrad. Um, and it took a while for my dad to come to terms with that. Then the next thing I met.
I was just going to say, sorry to interrupt, but I was literally going to say, how courageous of your father. I want to point that out as
Yeah,
well. How courageous of your father to part with you as a 16-year-old young man and
yeah,
go to a country where he has now given up all control. And the main thing that's probably going through his and your mother's mind is like, he's going to go to America and they're going to like destroy our child. He's not going to conform to anything. Like he's going to go wild out there. And then here you're calling and saying like, oh, what I said I was going to do, by the way, I'm not doing it.
yeah, correct. And
And,
and,
and
and
you're
not
like,
just my
oh, it
dad.
starts
Yeah,
now.
my dad and my mom, right? So imagine the courage on both of their parts,
Yep.
to be able to say, yep, we trust you enough. We're going to put you in the hands of your uncle and aunt for 2 years in high school, and then you're off to college. And so, yeah, lot of courage. I have a lot of admiration for what they did. And then thinking about my aunt and uncle who made it possible. Like if they didn't open their home to me, what would have been the situation? So for them to bring me in and raise me for those 2 years like their own kid, I'm very close to them as a result, and my cousins who are now like my youngest sisters. Um,
And the
Same.
responsibility of
Yeah,
making sure that you did what you were needed to do.
correct, correct. And so, you need that support when you pursue freedom. You need that because you're constantly being faced with these constraints that you have to overcome, and you need that support structure of friends and family that say, yep, pursue your heart. They'll give you advice. You can take that advice as a constraint, or you can take it as encouragement to keep going, knowing that you have a safety net or someone that loves you who's looking out for you. The next thing at Purdue, I met my wife. That's where I met Kathy, at Purdue. So now forget Brahmin girl, forget Catholic girl. Kathy is Caucasian Christian, right?
Engineering
Protestant.
is out, Indian woman
Engineering is
is out.
out. Yep, yep,
Oh
yep,
my gosh.
yep. So we didn't get married in a Catholic church or in a Hindu temple, right? Um, and so every step, every stage, I forced myself to be true to who I was. And then the next thing was career, right? And I found myself at the Big Four in a very prestigious position. I worked my career up to where I was part of the leadership team. You know, again, there was a lot of prestige. My son is this. And then I woke up on my 35th birthday and I said, I'm done with this. This is not what I signed up for as a career. I'm not going to be a puppet or controlled and told how I should be happy or why I should be happy, or derive my satisfaction from someone else's evaluation of whether I did good based on their rules and whether I deserve a raise. In other words, my self-esteem was not going to be someone else's toy, right? And so I quit. So I basically quit. I resigned. We had 3 kids. Our youngest was 2 months old. No job offers, no nothing. And I resigned and I was like, we're going to do this the right way. And so I didn't have the courage to start my own firm in 2011 when I left the Big Four. So I joined a startup. That was the next closest thing to freedom. And I joined the startup. I was there for 3 years. It was a fantastic experience. And I found my courage. And my wife basically said, hey, you've now proven to yourself that you can do this. So let's do it. Let's put our money where our mouth is. And that's where the life savings came from. We took our life savings, which was tiny, as you can imagine, starting a family and everything.
Okay, so I hear you saying this, and I hope that everybody listening to this, whether you're listening to it right now on the live or whether so much time has gone by and you secretly came upon this, it's brilliant. But you said something that you were always, following your own path in a way, like you were always trying to stay true to you. Did you consciously know you were doing that?
At times, yes, and at times, no.
Because looking back, it's what makes it like, oh, I was always being true to me, and that's why it felt like I was going against the grain of everybody else, and it felt shitty. It felt terrible at times to go against the people that I loved, my parents, because of course, as a young person, you want to make your parents happy and the rest of the world. But it feels terrible sometimes when you're going, following your own heart and not other people's hearts.
Yeah, so, I think it came in stages, right? And so I can look back now at 31 years of this journey and say, oh yeah, these are the key milestones. But when I was in the milestone at the time, it wasn't like this life-changing thing. I didn't know it was going to happen. I just felt that I had to make a different choice, right? So even when I was at the big firm that I talked about, I joined the firm in February of 2001 in New York. And I was put into a risk management practice doing telecom risk, which was booming at the time. So out of nowhere, this manager who had just been introduced to walks over to me at a town hall and says, hey, Vivek, I know that you've never done any of this. You may have touched on this work, during Y2K, but would you be interested in doing more business continuity and crisis management? At the time, it was a sleepy industry. Y2K had just happened. No one gave a crap about business continuity because they were like, Y2K was a non-event. Who cares?
Right. They thought it was going to be like blowing up the universe or something, but it didn't.
But it didn't. And so in a way, business continuity as an industry took a big step backwards because it lost credibility. It had cried out wolf for all those years, all those billions spent, and nothing happened. Well, something interesting. I actually love the concept of business continuity. I was like, oh, this is really neat. So you're preparing for doomsday. You're thinking about all these options. And, my whole idea of freedom is about weighing and picking the true thing. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So I dove into it when everybody was running away. Well, I didn't know that a few months later, 9/11 was going to happen in New York. And within the next 2 years of doing business continuity, I became one of the leads at the firm in doing this. I was teaching people how to do it. And that's what took off my career. That now led to me creating a firm that does business continuity and crisis management. Who would have thought that decision, that one conversation after that one town hall with this one manager would be life-changing, right? But that's what I mean. Like at the time, I couldn't project forward and go, all these events are going to happen and it will change. All I knew was this feels right. Like I actually enjoy what she's describing versus the path the firm has me on doing telecom risk management. And so I had to step away. That one step led to 9/11 response for some of our largest clients in New York. I spent a year in Louisiana after Hurricanes Katrina and Rita doing recovery effort for the state of Louisiana. I spent 6 months in California designing the mass casualty plan for the state of California for pandemics, which was used years later during the pandemic.
Oh,
So I've done some
wow.
really amazing work. Who would have known that one conversation and that one decision, which at the time seemed nonchalant, I was like, yeah, this sounds cool, would be that. So, when you say, did I know? Deep down, there was some feeling, but the magnification is just staying true to it.
That's so brilliant. I want to really emphasize something here is, when number one, we will never succeed at stuff if we try to constantly know the how, because the how doesn't matter. And most of the time you're not even aware, right? You have no idea that you're going to go, that these steps are going to take you to this place, and you don't
Yeah.
need to. I think the most important lesson is when you really stay true to yourself, like you said. But how does one do that, right? We talk about things like tapping into your own intuition and following your heart and staying true to yourself, and being who you are and showing up as yourself. It's very nice to say these cliche things to say, but what's the roadmap to doing it? And sometimes the biggest thing that you maybe aren't doing and need to do is pause and take some time to listen to your own thoughts and organize them, and like challenge them, question yourself. Why is this
Yeah.
making sense to me? Why is this not making sense? Because when you heard that, you were like, oh, this is cool. But you did not, I know you're saying it like that, but for sure you didn't walk away from that and just forget about it, and now it went in one ear and out the other.
Correct.
Internalize that. You thought about it. You took some time on your own to be like, what is this all about? And why am I feeling a certain way about it? And then follow that feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And several years ago, right about the time when I quit the big firm, I was traveling 100%, right? And on one of those long flights, I think it was like one of those 12-hour flights, I actually wrote down my creed, and I'll share this with your audience
Oh,
because this I live with. This is part of me. So my creed that I wrote down was: life is finite, life is uncertain, and there are no guarantees in life. Therefore, you have to embrace the uncertainty and adopt a mindset of an explorer. My mission, therefore, is to explore life and take pleasure in the journey, not the outcomes. So I wrote this. This has been with me now for, I would say, close to 12 years.
oh,
And every decision that I make now consciously, this is what I think about. Am I exploring? Am I doing this for the journey? Or am I trying to get an outcome, and am I fixated on what the outcome is? And you're absolutely right. When I made that choice, it was about, this is cool. I want to know more about it. I want to learn about it. I'd like to become an expert in doing it because it's an interesting thing. Where it leads me, who the heck knows, right? And that's embraced, that's captured in that creed. And so I wanted to share that because when I knew we were going to talk about this, I was like, this would be very appropriate to talk about. That's my creed. That's what I live with, and that's at the heart of even the Kavi group.
I love this so much. It speaks to my heart in a way that I can't even describe. Number one, I'm getting chills throughout my body through this conversation, because like my divine spirit is tapping into me constantly through this conversation. And what I really want to point out is, number one, I am all about the young people in the world, like our young humans, and the impact that they are going to someday have on the planet, and how us as adults have an obligation, a duty, and just it's part of what we are designed to do, is to teach and cultivate them as human beings of their own, versus doing what other people have tried to do with us growing up, is put their thoughts and expectations on us, rather than allowing us to grow into who we inherently already are. And
Hmm.
what this just leads me to is not only have you built this, beautiful business. I had no idea the magnitude of the effect that you've had in the world out there doing this type of work, but to see how humble and beautiful you are as a human is just so enlightening to me. And what it really does is it also tells me what a gorgeous husband and father you must be, because when you have that type of mindset that is open to exploration and freedom of being yourself as a human being, I have to think that you are that way as a husband with your wife and as a father with your children, and that the conversations are probably very different in your household than most others on the expectations of that family dynamic.
It's an evolution, right? It's growing, and it's dealing with like not putting the same constraints that you would not put on yourself. Don't put it on somebody else, right? And that's very difficult as a parent. It's very, very hard. It's easy to do it with adults, but when you have a kid and you make the assumption that that kid doesn't know what's good for them, that you somehow know what's better for them, then parenting starts to happen. And one of, I think, the biggest problems is that as parents, we try to get our kids to do stuff that we ourselves don't do. So we're saying one thing, we're doing another, and they're observing this contradiction. And then we're trying to advise them on what we're saying. So do what I say. Don't watch what I'm doing, because I'm really not doing what I'm saying you should do. What do you think they're going to do? And so, I told my wife, I've stopped giving my kids advice. Period. I don't try to parent them in terms of proactively assuming that something is wrong, or that they are doing something wrong, or that they don't have a certain capability, or I'm not going to assume negative. I'm just going to let them explore. And then should they get to a point where they're like, hey, this didn't work out, what the heck happened? Hey, dad, sure, I can give you some insights, but you're still going to have to make the choice, right? My job is a safety net, not the engine of your life. I'm here as the handrails to make sure you don't fall off the cliff, but you're driving. I'm not the steering wheel, and I'm not controlling the steering wheel. That's all you. I'm just going to make sure you don't fly off. And that's where you'll hear me, is if I think you're coming to the edge, I'll give you an alarm, but then it's up to you. It's course correct. So that is very hard to do. It's easier said than done on a daily basis. But I see myself as a work in progress when it comes to that still.
I love it. It's so funny that you use the analogy of the automobile and the steering wheel. I think our parents like being the brake as much too, right? They like being the brake. And I think you're absolutely right. It's definitely a little more challenging to not have that instant that natural instinct to tell our kids what to do and what not to do. One of the things I found super powerful in my own parenting, and I still offer this to anybody who ever is asking, but I think the power of questions is a very powerful tool. So when my son would come to me with questions about, hey, what do you think about this? Or, I want to do it. I would always put it back on him and ask him like, oh, I really haven't thought about this. What were you thinking? Tell me why you think that. Where did you hear that? I want to know what's going on in his mind. Number one, I don't even think that you can parent your children properly if you don't even know where they're coming from. And that's usually a very good place where people are. They're like, I don't want to hear what you have to say. Here's what you're going to do. This is how you're supposed to think. This
Correct.
is how you're supposed to feel. And it's like, no, find out where they are and then meet them there and then ask them some really powerful questions, because I think the power of letting them see their own brain and question themselves and learning how to question themselves is that way of being able to tap into our own intuition and find our way and guide ourselves, because we have a guide within us and we don't know how to use it.
Yeah, 100%. In the think about it. So think about it from the perspective of what that means if from childhood, especially, with our backgrounds, if you're in a culture and an environment where you've been told what to do, told how to think, told, you know, everything, every aspect of your life sort of controlled, right? When you grow older and you're faced with exploration as an adult, what is your comfort zone? You're so petrified of the wide open ocean because you have no idea how to navigate it. No one ever taught you that. All they did was put you in a boat that they rowed at their pace in their direction. And then one day you're an adult, right? And there's no wonder that when you go back to India and you look at some, there are like 40-year-old men who are still listening to advice from their 80-year-old dads because they
And the
don't
other
know
thing,
how to they don't know how to navigate. And it's like that. I've even found that in the US. And you get to a point where then you're like, what do you think I should do? And so you supplement your parents with your employer. That becomes your new parent. And your employer says, I think you should pursue this path. And if you do these things, I will reward you. And so you're like, oh, this is great. I don't have to make any choices anymore. Right. And so you continue doing that.
and we
Um,
condition ourselves to do that. So when we're faced with a decision, we don't know how to make it, which is why so many of the people out there are struggling with anxiety and
yeah.
depression and stuff because they're like, oh, too many decisions.
Yeah,
You know,
freedom is a very scary thing. Freedom is an incredibly scary thing.
the unknown.
If you don't know how to be an explorer and you're not okay with making mistakes because your whole life you've been told, mistakes are bad, avoid mistakes, then freedom is an extremely scary thing, right? And to me, I love uncertainty. I love freedom. I don't know where this is going to go because that's what I've created for 31 years, and so the other thing I want to share is it's not an overnight thing. It's not like today I'm completely constrained. I've lived for 30 years in a constrained way, and tomorrow I'm just going to wake up and embrace freedom. It doesn't work that way.
Break all the shackles
It's
immediately.
like going to the gym. It's like you got to start slow. You got to work your way. You got to understand how your body works, how your mind works. And anybody who's tried to run long distances or take up any sport of any kind, there's a complete connection between what your body is capable of, what your mind thinks your body is capable of, and how you break the plateaus. Embracing freedom is exactly the same. You got to first understand what is your tolerance? Build that tolerance. How does your mind work with it? And so it's a journey more than anything else.
I think that my Facebook fans are having such a treat today because I didn't even jump off the live for you guys. I was just like, go ahead and listen to the whole conversation.
Yeah, we're like
Hey,
15
we're
minutes
still
over.
on here. We're still on here. Because I like what you're saying. Number one, with anything, you have to put in the reps. And people say that to me all the time. All of my work is around post-traumatic growth, right? It's growing through what we go through. All of my work is around being resilient, right? And I am I like all of my life, especially in business, I've been an entrepreneur for many years, over 25 years. And even in real estate, we talk about planting the seeds, right? When we're talking about generating business for ourselves, you have to just plant the seeds. You have to just create the relationships. These are all really great things, but what does that actually mean, right? Like if you take an acorn, right, it has all of the wisdom already in it to become this great big oak tree. And what does the oak tree actually stand for? It stands for resilience and strength and power. And when I think about how any tree, anything out there that's alive in the world, it has all of the same things to contend with, right? In order for its survival, it has to contend with the external conditions, right? A tree, an oak tree may have to contend with weather and snow and other animals living in it and all of these different things, right? But it has the wisdom within it to continue to survive and thrive through these environmental
Hmm.
things that are coming at them, right? We have that same thing, but as human beings, we have so much outside forces that we kind of get lost in the fog. Like we don't even know how to stay connected to that deep inner knowing that we already have in order to combat what's coming at us every day.
Yeah.
And what we have that the tree doesn't have to worry about and the animals don't have to worry about is a fox or any animal out there doesn't have other foxes telling it what to do and telling it what not to do. And they don't have TV screens with other animals telling them what to do and what not to do. They just get to survive on their own natural instinct. They're never overweight. You don't see this happening, like, right? You don't have
Yeah.
the other creatures in the world not living as the way that they're meant to live. We have too many things that are derailing us and we're not staying
I
connected.
I would let me reframe that for a second, because
Yes.
part of the individual accountability core value forces you to basically take accountability for your actions. So I don't like to frame as there's all these things out there. No, you still have to choose, right? And I'll use your analogy of the tree. So for example, a mango tree growing in a garden surrounded by apples and pears and coconuts doesn't wake up one season and go, those coconuts look really good. I'm going to try and grow coconuts now.
Yes.
They know they are a mango tree. They understand who they are, and year after year produces mangoes, right? We as human beings don't stay true to ourselves. That's an individual accountability. We wake up one day and we look out the window or the TV and we say, oh, look, that person has that. I'm going to try and be that person now. And then things break, right? And now you're no longer happy. You're basically trying to emulate someone else because of something they have. And that happens all the time, right? If we use your analogy as the tree knows who they are. They are individually accountable for delivering whatever it is they are meant to deliver, and they are happy within that, and they grow within that. They don't keep changing colors of their flowers every year. Whatever flowers they're meant to make is what they make. Whatever
Yeah.
fruit they're meant to make is what they make. It is who they are. And part of the my journey, and I'm only speaking from my experience, is I had to find out what kind of tree I am. And once I understood what kind of tree I am, now I'm happy with the fruit I give. This is it. I don't care whether you think I should be doing that fruit or that colored flower or whatever. That's your problem.
But
This is who
that
I am. I'm going to give you this fruit. That's it.
I love it. But that individual accountability comes from being self-aware. And
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that the external environments that we have, we are not taught how to
Yeah.
self-aware, right? We grow in this environment and we somehow we had it inside of us when we were born, but we are unlearning stuff as we grow because we are
Yeah.
not taught that self-awareness, that one tool to allow us to stay connected. And so for people like you, people like me, there was something nagging at us. We didn't allow that. It was uncomfortable to conform to the outside because we were very true to ourselves, where nobody taught it to us. It was inherently inside of us, and
Hmm.
somehow we stayed connected to it, where there are so many people in the world that have disconnected and don't know how to reconnect.
Yep. 100%. I agree with that 100%, that we're not taught. Actually, I would say we're taught to disregard who we
Yes.
are and how we feel and what our natural instincts are. We are taught to actually go against that from childhood, right? Because if you look at kids playing in a park and you've not told them anything about who they are, they will just play and have the best time. And then somewhere society will say, oh, but you are from this group. you should think this way. You're from this religion. You should think like this. You should only associate with these. This is what you should choose to play. Don't play that. And like literally, you start getting put in boxes. And then over time, you start to create your own boxes because that forms your identity, right? We're training ourselves, or we've been trained to literally go against our nature. And that's my observation. And so I try hard to go to stay true. It's not easy. And you have to catch yourself, and you have to be accountable enough to say, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Why am I doing that? Am I doing it because I think it'll be perceived this way? Or am I doing it because it is truly me?
Yeah. And you know what? As I hear you saying, it's not easy to do that. But the truth is, it has been so much easier being me than
Mm-hmm.
it was trying to be the me that I thought and perceived that other people wanted me to be. It is so much easier for me to be myself now because just like you said, the mango tree is a mango tree. He's not trying to be an apple. And that's just how you have to be. If you're a mango, you have to also remember not everybody loves mangoes, and it's
Yeah,
okay.
it's
Like you
okay.
don't say like, oh, well, maybe, I mean, I am this beautiful mango.
Yeah,
Mangoes aren't for everybody. Some people don't want a mango. They want
yeah,
some other fruit. They want a kiwi. Fine. They got to go find the kiwi. I'm not a kiwi. And,
correct.
and that's okay. And I love that analogy because oh God, I think this is exactly why, just so you guys know, we did say that with full disclosure originally, 30 minutes turned into 3 hours. That's just who we are as humans.
That's exactly
We
how
love
it
each other
happened.
very much from the moment we met. So I think we're going to have to wrap it up and probably have a volume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this one because that's how Vivek and I roll. But this is such a passionate conversation that you and I share together because even when I think about within our own culture, and I'll say our own culture because we share one, but it's like, I mean, I was married to an Italian man. So between the superstitions of Indian and Italian, it was like there was nothing I could do. I was just like, no, don't put your furniture here. No, you can't put it there. You can't do it. So it was all of these rules, like you said. And one of the things that I have noticed a lot in my life, I was about to go somewhere with this, and now all of a sudden my brain just went crazy. Okay. But one of the things that was in one of our conversations early on is um, growing up, in my household, it was like you can't dress a certain way, you can't wear certain clothes, or it's, there's a way of being appropriate, and there was definitely an obvious thing of being inappropriate. And then
Hmm.
at the same time, it was so confusing because there was so much glamour and emphasis and like love for the entertainment business, right? Like Indian movies, actors and actresses. I'm like, well, they're definitely wearing something way, more like they're what they're wearing, I could never wear. So why do we love her? And
Hmm.
it's so amazing when she's just an actress, she's a human, and she's wearing things or acting a certain way that would definitely not be acceptable for me. So it was always this contradiction for me in my mind, and we talked about that a little bit. So
Yeah.
it's interesting on the confusion of it was, you need to be in this box, but we love these people who are completely outside the box.
Yeah.
All of the Indian movies were about falling in love with somebody you're not supposed to, and how it always worked out. Everybody fought against it, but then in the end, it was like happily ever after. So why is that not okay for me?
Yeah, that's right. And you have two choices there, right? Whenever you're faced with that, choice one, and this is how I've come to view it. Choice one is you can get upset with the person or persons group that is somehow projecting or imposing this perceived constraint on you. Or you can view this as a test of yourself and your choice, because no one can force you to do if you don't allow them to. right? So one of the things that I've come to where this becomes really important on a day-to-day basis is you can't say that person made me angry. That person made me sad. That is a violation of the individual accountability core value. You have to say, I got angry by something they said. They have free will to say what they want. How you interpret it and what you do with it is up to you. So if you get pissed off, that's on you. You control you. And if you don't control you, then you can't blame somebody else, right? So that's the individual accountability. And so I've come to terms with it where I expect people to say stuff that doesn't make any sense to me, right? So for example, my mom would say, I want you to marry a nice Catholic girl. And it would be like, yeah, but mom, you married a nice Brahmin boy. So instead of getting upset about it, I'd be like, hey, let me ask myself the question, should I be upset about it? Not really. I'm going to do what she did, which was follow her heart. So I'm going to follow mine.
Yeah.
And that's how it goes. And so I think you come to that choice. What you do is 100% up to you. How you feel about it is 100% up to you. You can't make excuses, right? And then you actually experience freedom.
Yeah, we have a choice. I mean, when there's things that are going on in the world, whether it's other people or something somebody says or does, you ultimately have the choice on how you want to think about it and how you want to perceive it and how you want to receive it. And then ultimately following your own path really comes down to, when I say tapping into your own intuition, your feelings or your emotions are vibrations in your body. Listen to the vibrations in your body. Where is it? Is it in your heart? Is it in your stomach? Is it feel hard? Like, tap into what is going on in your own body. Your body will tell you what you need to do and what feels right and what feels not right. So
that's correct.
I mean, we could go on and on for the entire day. I know we can, and we probably still will. But if anybody or any company that is high tech out there, I know you guys don't market, but this conversation is beautiful, and I can see a little bit and tap into who Vivek is as not just a company and what he's created as in business, but who he is as a human, as a father, as a husband, as a beautiful human being. I love you. Where can we reach out and connect with you?
I would say LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to connect with me. I'm very active there. I've become more and more active, and if you follow my posts on LinkedIn, they have the exact same theme that we've been talking about, because I've realized that you somehow have a responsibility when you have an insight to share that insight, right, with those that could benefit from it. And so if it's useful for folks, check out my posts. And if it's helpful, reach out to me, and I'll be happy to help more.
Love it. Well, thank you so much. Number one, for coming on and chatting with me. And number two, for being patient and not being able to chat the first time, but we still hung out and chatted. We just couldn't put it on the Facebooks. But I really, really value and appreciate our connection and our friendship. And I'm excited to see where it can go from here. Thank you so much, Vivek, for being with us today.
Thank you. It was wonderful. I'm looking forward to doing it again.
For sure, it's happening.
Okay.
All right, guys, we're going to log off of the Facebook and keep on chatting. Thank you for listening to Unpacking Brain Drama podcast. You'll find links for all the things mentioned below in the show notes. And it would be incredibly awesome if you would take a quick moment to leave a review on iTunes or wherever you listen. If you'd like to be considered as a guest on our podcast, be sure to go to www.resultsbydesigncoaching.com for a free 30-minute coaching session. Thanks so much, guys. See you next time.